Coming up on Cogeco News, to mask or not to mask, one of many questions. Anthony Rota responds to a big scandal and also the deficit. And curling will be back in the fall, but it'll be different. Hello again, everybody. Welcome to this Friday edition of Cogeco News. I am Greg Astor-Brooks. Well, could the North Bay Parry Sound District Health Unit follow Sudbury's lead? This after the Sudbury Health Unit made mask wearing in public places mandatory. Now the local health unit is in consultation, it says, with other northern health units in regards to mandating face coverings across the province. Dr. Jim Chirico was unavailable for an interview on this issue on Friday, but we hope to hear from him on Monday. Now, he says through a release, a face covering does not replace physical distancing and other protective health measures such as hand washing and isolating yourself when you have symptoms or have come in close contact with someone with COVID-19 or suspected to have COVID-19. And again, we'll update you on that situation on Monday's edition of Cogeco News. This is a video that's actually on the Health Unit website if you want to check it out. Now let's go to the COVID board for Friday, July 10th. No new positives in the region, 300 tests on the nose, 37 cases in all, 34 have been resolved. The North Bay Police Service has concluded a sexual investigation involving a private healthcare provider. This investigation has resulted in the arrest of 30-year-old Craig Baudouin of the city of North Bay, who is charged with one count of sexual assault, and these charges have not been proven in a court of law. Meanwhile, on another police front, the service has seen a big drop in calls related to COVID-19 protocols or the violation of said protocols. However, it does not mean enforcement will be diminished.
And here with the North City and North Bay and calendar, the North Bay Police continues to have a car with 2 special constables in it who are assigned to COVID-19 patrol. So they're out answering questions still. They're responding to complaints that people may have. And some of these are still legitimate complaints. So we still maintain that education is our #1 component. People still can be charged for some violations, though. We still are in a pandemic. People need to remember that.
You talked about the fact that numbers or calls have gone down. What calls have gone down?
Well, calls in direct response to, we did have calls from people saying, people are in areas that are supposed to be restricted. Well, now those areas have opened up. And we continue to remind people to, do what is right to keep on top of this pandemic. We've been very lucky in our area, and people have been fantastic in responding to our officers and our special constables' requests to social distance. We keep hearing it from our healthcare leaders. Wash your hands, social distance, and now the mask issue has come up as well. And certainly, if you feel safe wearing a mask, wear a mask.
In this building behind you, what changes have been made, and have there been any alterations to those changes as the regulations have been loosened somewhat?
We haven't, since the chief deputy and our command staff made the changes originally when COVID came in back in March, we still continue to function here in the same capacity. So you have to ring at the buzzer. We've cut off direct access to the public. They can still come in, but we want to limit that. Criminal record checks, if you need it for employment basis, are now done online. And something else that's new is the courthouse is opening. But when people go to the courthouse, they will be subject to questions about COVID-19. How are they feeling? And you do have to wear a mask when you go in there.
Not a very fun time for the Prime Minister this week. Justin Trudeau in hot water over payments made to family members for speaking engagements for a national charity organization. But before that, we asked Nipissing Timiskaming MP and House Speaker Anthony Rota about Canada carrying the largest federal deficit since the end of World War II.
This is the biggest crisis we've had since World War II. So I think what we have to look at is, what did we do with that money? We kept people eating, paying for rent, and living. And that's something that's very important to Canadians, and we want to continue to make sure that's there.
There are a number of programs. I'm not going to get you to go through all the acronyms, but obviously there are different programs to help different people and different businesses stay afloat because this isn't going away that quickly.
What the programs are meant to do is keep people housed and fed and keep them afloat so that they can pay rent and continue to keep businesses going so that when things get back to normal, they hit the road running. And that's what the intent was, and it continues to be, so that when COVID-19 is history, we can continue. We don't have to worry about digging out of a hole or digging ourselves out of a hole. We're already at ground level and we can hit the road running. It's very difficult to say what is coming up and what will happen with COVID-19, but we have to do the best with what we've got. And right now the whole idea was to flatten the curve and keep everybody relatively healthy so that we've got a workforce that's able to get to work once the economy kicks off. Now, the other thing to look at is if it does stick around, we'll have to deal with it as best we can with the information we have. And every day we end up with more and more information on COVID-19, which helps us cope better.
Another significant story this week for the Prime Minister and the Liberals to deal with is the scandal involving the We Charity, where it was unearthed by media in Toronto that the Prime Minister's wife, mother, and brother were all paid for speaking engagements for the charity. There is an outcry that the Prime Minister resign. The Conservative Party wants an emergency recall of the House of Commons to deal with this situation.
No question, and I'm hoping that he deals with it soon. And with honesty and bringing forward all the facts. I think there's been a lot discovered. And unfortunately, what I've seen and many people have seen in Parliament is what has been reported by the media. So we're waiting for a further report of the situation.
Could there be a recall of Parliament, and is that your purview?
Recalls can happen at any time. As a matter of fact, I hear rumor that we're being recalled next Wednesday for some fiscal matters. But again, that comes up. It's requested of the Speaker. The Speaker puts out the call, and then MPs come back to Ottawa.
One final question. I know that the ratification took place a little while ago, but about the NAFTA 2.0. Mm-hmm. What's your early sense of it? Have you had any time in your busy schedule to even look at the document and see how it impacts this region and the country?
Well, I think overall we want to see continued trade happen between Canada, U.S., and Mexico. I mean, it's a large economic area and it has to continue. The new NAFTA is a little different from the old one, but not really enough to be a concern. So we will continue to do business, and now even with COVID, we have continued to trade between Canada and the U.S., although the borders are closed to tourist and visiting traffic. Commercial traffic continues to go back and forth in order for the economies to stay as solid as possible under the circumstances.
Good job numbers for Ontario announced today, relatively speaking. Employment in Ontario increased by about 378,000 jobs in June, including an increase of just over 66,000 manufacturing jobs. Closer to home, I asked the Minister of Economic Development and Trade, Vic Fedeli, about the crisis at the North Bay Airport.
Well, the airport itself needs to be funded, plain and simple. We have huge companies there who rely on an active airport. Whether Air Canada's there or not, you still have air service, and you have FedEx, and you have Bearskin Airlines, you have Sunquest, you have others that are using it. But Air Canada, that was their bread and butter, and that paid the bills. So what I've said in my discussions with the municipality and with the airport is we need to look for a replacement carrier. I've offered my thoughts on who it could be and how to approach them and why, and some of the arguments that can be made and some of the logical arguments that can be made. And so I hope that this is something that will happen. Right now, with very few flights flying even out of Toronto, there's no immediate need, but this is the window of opportunity then to be approaching these other carriers as well.
Do you feel this is in some respects kind of Airbase Property Corp 2.0, trying to save the airport?
Well, it's you need a carrier here. So continuing to talk to Air Canada about some of the other features in North Bay, looking back at their flight records the volume that they held, but also looking at the price per ticket in North Bay. It's a lot more expensive to fly out of North Bay to Toronto than it is from Sudbury to Toronto because they have competition with Porter and others. Same with Timmins. So they were getting good value from the seats in North Bay, and even if it wasn't, there weren't as many seats, they were certainly getting good revenue from it.
Of course, revenues in this country have been down, and the deficit is up to a record level because of COVID-19. How does that impact Ontario and its deficit going forward?
The Auditor General was very clear in the past 7-8 years that when you have a debt, the interest that you need to use to pay that debt, her words are, crowds out the things that the people of Ontario require. And so that's why it's so important. And I'm so glad that over the first year of our term, we were so fiscally responsible that we helped trim that deficit so that we were better prepared. It's really sad in reflection, and why I wrote 5 books about this, that in the good years, they didn't balance the budget and build a reserve 4 days like we're seeing today. That would have been the ideal opportunity. Instead of spending in the good days, they should have been balancing the budget back then. It really would have helped Ontarians today.
A local group wants the city of North Bay to take greater action against what they believe is systemic racism in the city. The group has submitted a letter to City Council, which features more than 50 signatures from North Bayites and North Bay-based organizations, asking that City Council demonstrate leadership in working to address this issue in North Bay.
Sometimes it takes bad things to happen for good things to happen. And all of the furor in North America, the killings by police, the beatings in Canada of Indigenous peoples and Black peoples, and I think that the timing of that, plus maybe people were slowed enough by the pandemic to have time to think instead of rushing around to jobs all the time, it seems to have coalesced into a situation where people are now telling their stories. I was so pleased that the mayor of North Bay, Al McDonald, almost immediately responded when he heard that we were trying to get a local committee going. And he didn't mince words. He said, of course there's racism in North Bay. A lot of municipal people try to fudge the issue and speak those vague generalities. We could always do better, or talk about, some sort of vague relationships they have with marginalized people. But I was so impressed that Al said that, because we can't start working on dealing with problems until we admit the problems exist.
What would you like to see done at a municipal level? Because of the 3 levels of government, Morris, they are the weakest ones, really.
Well, I disagree. I think that the municipal level should be, for movements like this, the strongest. What's been happening is there have been royal commissions, truth and reconciliation commissions about Indigenous issues. There are national positions and laws on racism and human rights, but I think at the local level, they're too distant. And that's why we started a Reconciliation North Bay. That's why this Equity Inclusion group is starting, and we already have that, as I say, that very positive initial response from the mayor. I pay good, healthy taxes, and I'm glad to pay taxes. If what I get in return is a city that gives me good sewers, good water mains, but what every taxpayer deserves and every resident of the city deserves is a safe, inclusive community. Now, the police department and fire department can do some of that, but a good part of that work, particularly for people who are racialized or marginalized, that message has to be sent from the top, that we will not tolerate some of the things that are going on in our community. So.
Breakdown has arrived here on Cogeco News. When we come back, a bit of an update from the gardens and a unique 60th wedding anniversary celebration. Welcome back, everybody. Of course, things are slowly, very slowly starting to reopen in North Bay. And one of the spots reopening, or at least it will be in about 4 weeks, is Memorial Gardens. It is coming back, or at least it's reopening somewhat.
The staff has been monitoring what the provincial government is saying, and now it's good to proceed. August 4th will be the opening of Memorial Gardens. It is only open, or the ice rental is only available for organizations and businesses, so people who run hockey schools. The city is receiving applications till July 17th, and after that they will try to create a schedule to meet everyone's needs.
I guess the big question is there's a rather large, important tenant that wants to resume operations in the fall in that building. Has there been any input on, if the battalion come back at normal time about having fans attend their games, or is that a government decision?
That will be a government decision, and also probably a OHL decision.
Decisions that have not been made by either the government or the Ontario Hockey League, although the OHL has talked about their return to play policy. As for the rookie counselor, well, it's been 2 years since she was elected, but no one expected to deal with something like this.
Well, I can tell you that every day is different, and we have to be on the ball and react to the issues of the moment. And I think that council and city staff have been very good at doing that. It's very hard to be proactive and to plan, because everything changes every day. They're all moving targets, everything changes, and I think we are doing good.
Two North Bay Golden Age folks celebrated their 60th wedding anniversary on July 9th, which was yesterday. That'd be Ron and Kim Breslin. Now, Ron Breslin has been hospitalized since November 19th, and after not being able to see each other for almost 4 months due to COVID-19, the family staged a socially distanced celebration on Thursday. It was restricted. Media was not allowed actually on location, so they sent us a couple of pictures, and at least they got to go face to face on the big day, or face to mask, so to speak. Looks like tennis tonight between me and brother Ron. Not going to be happening. We'll have the complete weather update for you right after this.
Weather is brought to you by Canadore College. Great things happen here.
It's 5:20-ish, and you want to know what's going on? Well, it was sunny and hot this morning. It is raining. The forecast called for rain. No tennis tonight for me and many, many others who want to go maybe and enjoy the night. And for the folks running the big drive-in tonight at Memorial Gardens, it's looking a little dicey, even though they already sold a bunch of tickets already. Let's get to the 5-day forecast brought to you by Environment Canada and a weather shot when it was nice out. Overnight tonight, well, it's going to be rainy tonight and cloudy with some more rain overnight tonight. Pretty good chance of that. Saturday, hey, look at that high. Only 21 degrees with rain and a chance of more thunderstorms. Temperature staying pretty steady during that time frame because the low on Saturday night is just 18. Warming up a bit on Sunday, but again, cloud, and a chance of rain. 24 is the high, 14 is the low. Monday, more clouds, 25 and 14 again. And warming up on Tuesday, back up to 28 with a mix of sun and cloud and an overnight low on Tuesday of 18. The high yesterday, well, not as bad as most people thought it was going to be in regards to heat. It was 31, not factoring in, of course, the humidex. The low overnight Thursday was 18 degrees. The normal highs for this time of the year, and we've been way above them for weeks, it seems. 24 is the normal high, and 13 is the normal low. We're going to cool things down when we come back for sports with a little bit of curling, and yes, a little bit of a celebration of sorts coming right at you right after this.
Sports is brought to you by Tag Construction for all your construction needs.
I know for a lot of you, curling is not top of mind, but for a lot of us, come the fall, it will be. It'll be back in 2021, but it's going to be really different, at least at the start of the year. Now, Bobby Ray just took over the reins as the executive director of the Northern Ontario Curling Association. For him, the new rules are offering him a lot to learn.
23-page return to play guideline, manual, whatever you want to call it. I guess what we should clarify is that that's not necessarily a green light to start curling again, but when we do get that permission from the government or the health authorities, this is a document that will guide curling clubs to be able to return to playing. And it's long, but the gist of it, when it comes to rules, it's basically one person is going to be sweeping, is kind of the big thing in there. So it's going to be down to one person sweeping any rock, and the individuals who are in the house, normally the skips, won't be able to sweep anything. They don't sweep the opponent's rock behind the tee line like would be typical. They don't get to sweep the hidden roll. The skips are not doing any sweeping, period. As it's sort of been communicated by Curling Canada, this is the most restrictive version of this document that could exist. So you're going to start with the most harsh restrictions, and then as things start to open up, or things may be different in different parts of the country, you can relax some of those things. If you're out in the Atlantic provinces, you might be able to sweep with two players, for example, where perhaps not so much in Southern Ontario at this moment. I mean, it is just reducing to one player sweeping, and I think a lot of club curlers might welcome that change. But I think the big changes are going to be the off-ice activities, which is a huge part of our sport, is socializing in the lounge afterwards and having a beer and all that kind of stuff. And that might see some change if we're reduced to a certain capacity in the lounge. Do you have to stagger league game starts so you can share the time in the lounge? Do you are you just not allowed at all? Do you just have to go home? And I've spoken to a few close friends who curling is their life, but if they can't stick around and hang out with their friends after the game, they are seriously considering whether they would take a curling membership or not.
Because the thing is about curling, and not just the fraternization aspect, Bobby, it's also bar sales propel curling clubs to have to finish in the black or finish in the red.
Yeah, for sure. Every club operates a little bit differently, but they all depend on bar sales. I know a couple of clubs in northwestern Ontario who say they make the bulk of their money in the summers. They rent out their hall for weddings and stag and does, and all that revenue helps to subsidize the curling membership rates that their customers are used to. And there's going to be huge financial implications, and boards of directors for curling clubs will be in a difficult decision to say, is this financially viable to go forward this season?
Well, we're out of time. No, okay, we're not out of time, are we? All right. No, it's Clark's birthday, and of course he did his interesting salute last night on social media. I'll let you see that if you'd like. Clark's birthday is today. Happy birthday to Clark. Chris Robinson made up this montage of Clark being Clark. He's down south this weekend with the family after a little bit of a cottage stay, I believe on Thursday. He's not back to work till next Wednesday. So he's having one heck of a big party this weekend. Yes, we did. That is it for this edition of Cogeco News for this day and this week. I'll be back with more Cogeco News live at 5 on Monday. See you then.